What up? Wade here. Welcome back to the Wade Alter Show. And so we're doing something different here today. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm actually recording a podcast at the moment. If you're listening on the podcast and you've been with me for a long time, we've decided to do something different here where we've decided, might as well record what's going on so I can kind of elucidate certain concepts, use the camera and the monitor here to show you a couple things this way. And I just feel the video format, of course, is more engaging. And so if you're watching this on YouTube, you're like, what's with the microphone, bro? It's the fact that we've been doing a podcast every single week, released every single Monday for the last over 2 years at this point. And so if you love podcasts, if you love that format, make sure to head over to iTunes or Spotify and just search for The Wade Alter Show and you'll find that there. But if you're listening to the podcast and you're wondering, what does Wade look like? I've never seen him before, or I haven't seen him since he's grown those long flowing Cali locks. We'll see. I need to get a haircut at some point here. The YouTube channel, we're going to be doing some extra special stuff over here. And so what I want to get into today, it's kind of a long intro, is really explain, when is the time to do video, when is the time to do audio and do the podcast format, where I see these platforms evolving, because it's something that I have a lot of clients as well as just people kind of reaching out at times going, why did you do the podcast? Why don't you do YouTube anymore? And having, nearly all of my clients these days have YouTube channels, some up to 1.5 million subscribers. Some guys like Tim Schmoyer is one of the biggest YouTube growth experts anyways, and I help him kind of on the funnel side of things and the marketing side of things. And so having all these assets on the YouTube platform, I'm like, okay, I want to do a lot of trial and error and guinea pig tests and things like that using my channel so that I ultimately can hand these things off to clients as well. So you might see us doing some weird shit and going, what's going on there? That's us just kind of playing with a lot of things. Okay, so podcasts versus YouTube. When do I do one? When do I do the other? Obviously, if you're using video, it's a more intimate format to where people, you feel like you know the person on the other side. I've had it where I've had clients for half a decade, and then all of a sudden you meet up in person, and it feels like you know this person as well as you know a family member or a good friend. And so it's weird, especially as it's got like 4K resolution with Zoom and with Skype and things like that. It's almost like you feel like the person is actually there on the other side. And so definitely video, a lot of times it's weird. I remember back when we were doing videos in 2009, 2010, before a lot of people were doing it, when people saw you in the streets, they thought you were like a celebrity. They thought you were a reality star. So from a positioning standpoint, from an authority standpoint, definitely video is an important medium. But of course, it takes a while to get good on camera. And so what I'll do first here is give a couple tips for camera, and then I'll talk about the podcast and then when to do each. So when it comes to video, the most important thing that I see with people is they're talking to the camera, not talking through the camera. And so if I was talking to the camera, this is me talking to the camera. I don't really want to do it very long because it's going to get boring very fast, even if you're just listening to this on the podcast. Versus if I talk 5 feet past the camera, I'm not even thinking about being more dynamic with the tonality of my voice. I'm not even thinking about being more dynamic with my gesticular movements and things like that. But it just happens automatically because I'm talking through versus talking to. So that alone is maybe the biggest shift that I can see people make that instantly is going to make your videos better. Of course, other ones getting comfortable with the eye contact and zoning in, looking at that, seeing the video every single time. And another huge one, of course, is having different verbal tics. And so what's interesting with that piece is if you're thinking, okay, how do I remove the ums? How do I remove the likes? How do I remove the whatevers or right at the end of the things you say? Or yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And really the only way that you're going to do that is by putting content out consistently. And so every time you put a video out, make sure you're there. If you're not editing it, you're over the shoulder of the person editing it. You're looking at it. Because the thing is, when it comes to editing a video, the better the raw footage, the easier it is to edit. Of course, the better you're talking, the better your flow is, the less edits you're going to need to put in place. But the other piece too, what it does is you start seeing yourself saying, over and over again, and automatically the subconscious starts going, oh my God, I got to stop doing that stuff. But what's weird is whenever you remove one of those things, something new pops in. And so the only way you're going to get good at this is practice. It's execution and doing it over and over again. And so this leads to another sort of conundrum or another issue is you think, okay, well, what do I do in the meantime when I do suck? My flow, it sucks. And I'm going to say and and like and things like that. And what you need to realize is that people actually appreciate the evolution. And so we've decided to put a couple videos out before this one. And, I didn't release them on the podcast because the audio wasn't good enough for the podcast. I'm like, let's get the damn microphone out and try it this way. And maybe, hey, in 3 or 4 videos, I won't be using the microphone. But I really want to illustrate, like I said, through this channel is that you have to be ready, fire, aim, as opposed to ready, aim, fire. It has to be a ready, fire, aim mindset. And that's the only way you're truly going to be successful as fast as you want. If you want to be more successful in anything, if it's going up and approaching a girl, instead of waiting for the perfect opportunity, if you've tried that before, it never works that way. Or same thing for the opposite sex. I'm just talking, I've mostly worked with dating advice when it came to men, not women. So if you're a woman, you're thinking, what'll be? It's the same thing. Same thing in business. And is that, you want to, before you think about creating the product and you put the product together and you're making beautiful sales letters and all this, it's like sell the thing before it's even made. Create the video and start putting things out. And maybe, like I said, I did a video before, the monitor's shaking a bit, so I got to move stuff around. We painted the wall back there. And I'm thinking probably I need some more stuff to stage up against the backdrop and things like that. There's probably a cat walking by. Oh, the cat's right here. There was a cat here the whole time. Damn, camera guy didn't tell me about the damn cat, but we'll keep that in there anyways. Those are the things that every video, next video, the cat's going to be locked out unless you guys like having the cat in the frame there some of the time. And so what you do is that process of iteration. And again, your fans, your audience, as you grow, people love that. They enjoy that. They appreciate seeing in their own life, their life is boring. So if they see somebody else taking action and growing, they feel good about that. And so don't be afraid to just jump in no matter what level you're at today, and just focus on every single thing you put out. Every single thing you do is better than the last one. And so the same stuff applies when it comes to the podcast with the audio, the quality of the audio, when it comes to, your conversation flow, the quality of the guests that you have, the quality of the content that you put out. One thing I will say when it comes to being a content creator overall is that if you're working with people, it makes your content infinitely better. Even me just knowing that the feedback that I've given already when it comes to how to create a better, camera, or how to, do the video content better, or what to do with the podcast or podcast versus video. I've been asked that question at least a dozen times, if not dozens of times. And so that answer, it gets polished up, it gets fine tuned and polished into this beautiful golden nugget. And then when you put that out, people are like, wow, that's great content, versus sitting there all day and going, what should I talk about today? What should I think about? And so one of the best ways to become a better content creator is be working with people more consistently, whether that's in products, coaching, consulting, or making sure at least at the bare minimum to be looking at the feedback you're getting on every video or everything that you put out, so that you can also keep on improving and continuing to grow. And so let's get into the podcast versus the video, when to do each. The number one criteria for this is it's not about you. It's about your clients. It's about your audience. It's about your fans. And where are they? And so the reason that I've focused more on podcasting lately is that the clients that I had at the time were almost all listening to the podcast, but never watching the videos. And so I was doing both. And it made sense because they're high-level entrepreneurs in my Chosen 20 program. They're super busy. They got 5, 10, 15 employees or things like that. Some have even more than that, multi-7-figure business. And so they don't have time to sit around on YouTube and look at that. And they're just thinking, how can I make this easier? How can I multitask? So the audio format, and I'm sure for a lot of you out there, that's just a great way. Podcast is an awesome thing that you can just plop on while you're on the train, or you're in an elevator, or you're going to the bathroom, or whatever. And with AirPods, your boss doesn't even know that you're listening to something that's not related to work. So that was great for me for a while. Another thing that's very interesting, if you have clients and the content you're putting out relates to them, is that I've noticed my paying clients, even though it's free content, putting out the podcast, they appreciate the coaching more. Because then when we get on the phone or we get on our coaching call, is they have just more sort of reference points of the things that I talk about, so that it just hits harder. So it impacts the coaching sessions, which is a very unique thing. And again, that's why I've been so consistent putting it out, because all my clients are like, oh, I listen to all the podcasts. I've listened to them twice now. Please keep doing this sort of stuff. But the thing that's an issue with the podcast is it's more challenging to grow organically. You can grow really fast with collaborations, and I was doing a lot of that, but I just got too busy on doing other projects, and so I wasn't doing as many collaborations as you might have noticed, and so it wasn't growing as fast as I liked. Whereas YouTube, you can just grow so much faster through, YouTube search, SEO and things like that. So growth is much easier and faster. I wouldn't say easier, but it's more faster when it comes on the YouTube platform versus the podcast. So again, it really does come back to, where are your clients at? Where is your audience at? What does your medium that you're trying to display, how can you do that more effectively? And so now that I've kind of leaned heavier into the copywriting side of things, I thought, oh, this would be great. I could plop on over to, I don't know why I keep saying plop. I don't know what's going on there. But I can go on to the monitor here and kind of do some screen flows. And we're definitely going to be doing some of that stuff moving forward. We're probably going to be putting those podcasts out as well. And I'll just make sure to say, hey, if you're listening on the podcast, it'd be good to jump over onto YouTube if you want to see the exact diagrams and things I'm showing and stuff like that. And I guess, the final thing I will say, we'll bring this onto yourself, is where are you best? And so another piece of me doing the podcast for a long time is that it's so simple and easy to edit that because there's no video to hide the edits. It's very reasonable to get a podcast editor to come in and kind of cut that stuff up. I haven't even listened to the raw material in a long time. And I had just a system set up where we had a great editor. And then all of a sudden my marketing manager would listen in. And between those two things, the quality control was there that I didn't even have to do it other than the raw recording. And so that was amazing when I was just focused on building the other aspects of the business. But that's also why it's a great platform for people that maybe don't have as polished of their sort of wisdom and the knowledge that they're putting out there yet. So you can hide some of that stuff behind the audio format versus video. It's a little bit different. That being said, YouTube these days is all about the jump cut. And so even though I'm flowing here, I'm trying to get more into the jump cut stuff, trying to give the kids what they want, keep the flow going there, because it does definitely make it more engaging, as well as adding on top overlays of different pieces of content, changing it up versus just my face, my beautiful face, and the flowing hair all the time. And so ultimately what it comes down to again is, where is my audience? That answers the question for you. And then secondly, what is my personality? What are my strengths? And always remember, at the end of the day, no one is cut from a different cloth. You can become more extroverted. You can be more dynamic. Don't use the excuse of thinking, hey, I'm boring, I'm monotone, I'm more auditory, and it's just never going to change. It's a cultivated process. For myself, when I released my first course, the dating program, that really changed everything for me, I re-recorded the entire thing because after editing it, I realized I was incredibly boring. And so I went into, I took years of improv training and just continued to focus on video and how could I make the video better and how could I make the audio better, and just, year after year after year, you can get there a lot faster. I started from a very low point. And so if I can do it, anyone can do it. And so it's good to be back. It's good to be back here on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, thanks as always. It's good to have you on the Weight Alter Show. And make sure to check out the YouTube channel. And if you're on this, make sure to hit the subscribe button, smash that bell. And as always, enjoy.